Hey, I'm Connie.
And I'm Connie.
And we are
Bad News Travels Fast.
Yes. I was supposed to say that with you, wasn't I?
You was.
Okay, oops. It seemed like it's been so long.
I know.
We're back, and we're glad you're back with us. Please like, share, and subscribe, please. And please also give us a comment. Let us know what you think. Also, if you have anything you would like us to discuss or talk about, please share with us. All right, so we're going to get started.
We're going to talk about a scapegoat. What is a scapegoat? Have you been the scapegoat? Have you used someone else as a scapegoat?
Well, let's talk about the definition. So what a scapegoat is, and I just found this out today. So, the first definition, a person who is blamed for the wrongdoings, mistakes, or faults, of others, especially for reasons of expediency. Number two, in the Bible, a goat sent into the wilderness after the Jewish priests had symbolically laid the sins of the people upon it. So I don't know if you're a Bible reader, you remember that in order for your sins to be forgiven, you would, make a sacrifice. So they would sacrifice a goat. So the goat would take on your sins.
The goat would pay for your sins.
The goat would pay for your sins, so your sins could be forgiven.
Correct.
So in turn, scapegoat.
Yes.
So you escape the repercussions
of what you did.
Correct. Excuse me. And the goat took on and was led into the wilderness.
Right. Or murdered, or whatever happened.
Or burned. Excuse me.
Yeah. That's deep.
Yeah.
To think about how we use people like that now. What originally made us talk about this topic?
Wait, hold on. So, but then Jesus is our scapegoat.
He is.
Okay. All right, go ahead.
You want to throw that in?
Jesus is our scapegoat.
What originally made us talk about this was I'm reading a book for school, and it's called what is it called? Oh, the Family Crucible. It's called the Family Crucible, but it's a story, and they're doing couples therapy or family therapy, and they have one child who seems to be quote unquote the problem child.
Right.
And really what happens is when they get into family therapy, they realize that the child is really the scapegoat for all the other marital issues or the issues in the family. So after reading the book for a little while, the couple has challenges that they don't deal with. Mom feels some type of way about dad. Dad is away, escaping the situation, and she's dealing with everything. But the child's behavior is kind of what brings to light the family issues. And so a lot of times, sometimes the kids become the scapegoat to the other deeper issues that nobody wants to deal with, because it's safer to just use that situation than to really deal with what's going on, because there's a lot of fear. If I start addressing the issues I have with, my spouse, it could lead to divorce. We could not talk for a while, whatever the issue is. So it's like choosing a easier target to put all the weight on. And what the book also talks about, like subconsciously somebody chooses to be that one. Like, I'll be the scapegoat for mommy and daddy's issues. Like, subconsciously we kind of develop these roles. And then when you have the child that's a problem child, you have the other child that takes on the role of Miss Perfect, or I'm the good one, to ease the pain off of the child who has some challenges. So subconsciously we take on these roles and not even realize it, to help the family have some type of balance. It's a really good book.
Jiminy Crickets. No, I really began to think about my own family, and I've had a couple problem children, I guess you would say, and I'm wondering if they were ever the scapegoat
for the deeper issues going
on. I'm going to say yes, because I think that there were probably times, if you would have asked me or my husband, like, what are you stressed about or whatever, the focus was the child's behavior, because it was like every day we're getting phone calls from the school, they're just not listening, it was like a constant thing or whatever. So it's like you focus on that behavior and you're angry, right? But you're really angry at so much other stuff.
Right.
So the fact that, I'm going to say personally, in my thoughts, I thought, my husband's not spending enough time with him. That's what's wrong with the boy. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
He was probably thinking, my husband was thinking, she's not hard enough on him or doesn't discipline him enough or whatever. So we have thought, we had thoughts towards each other, which was creating probably more tension and more anger and basically blaming the child. We didn't necessarily blame the child with our mouths on our whole situation, but the focus, that child became the focus of, you know, all of our woes, I guess you would say.
He got the brunt of it. But it made the family, it gave the family some type of equilibrium because it's a norm or whatever. And so it's easier for us to go by and just deal with this behavior, this one thing, than to deal with the horizontal issues that's happening in the family. And even with the other children, they started taking on different roles because maybe this one was having all the things. So I was maybe the good one. I was the one that listened, right? And so like, okay, let's say the child with the scapegoat, even in the book, the mother was she was cooking the food. She had to set the table and everybody doing their own thing. So she said, hey, y'all come help me. The little girl that's a problem child was closer. And so she finally got up to help, but she didn't do it how the mother wanted her to. She did it because the mother told her to.
Yeah.
So the mother gets mad at her and go off. And the girl like, hey, I did what you said. And the mother said, going on. So she said, do it your effing self.
Oh.
So the mother slapped her. But none of the other kids came to help.
Right.
So she got all of the anger, not even the husband, everybody doing it. So she's doing everything. And she said she called for help. The little girl was closer and heard her, did a little bit, but the mother still wasn't satisfied. But she was the one that got slapped because she's already a problem child. And it's like, oh, you can say, oh, she was disrespectful. She cursed at the mother. And that was wrong. But nobody else came to help either.
Right.
But nobody else had to deal.
And everybody should have got cussed out if that's what mama be doing.
Exactly.
I'm not saying we should cuss people out, but I'm just saying, well, once we got to that table, everybody should have got cussed out.
Right.
Because ain't none of y'all come. Y'all lazy butts. I be doing all the work. No, for real though. Mama should have just went upstairs. She should have made herself a plate and went upstairs and ate by herself. Like, well. And they all would have been like, what's going on? What's happening?
Yeah.
Is the food done? Okay, anyway.
It's just serious. I'm thinking about, I had this list and I don't have it with me, and it talks about different family roles, like the enabler, right? Mm-hmm. Like the alcoholic or whatever like that. And so different family roles that people take on in the family, and we don't realize how it affects each other. And then when there's a problem, and this is really talking about the importance of family therapy, because a lot of times a person who is maybe acting out, we want them to just go to counseling, right? Because it's them, it's not us. But that child's issue is a reflection of the emotional challenges within the family. Right. And so you really can't help the child without helping the family. But of course, nobody really thinks about that. Like, if they would just get better, my life would be better. No. Because we're not dealing with the deeper issues of what's going on.
And not to mention, too, you don't necessarily have to be emotionally out of control when someone else is doing something. So that's what I learned, too. Like, my son had a good few years of trouble in school, at home, at church. They were kicking him out of class at church because he was talking too much. There was times when he went into class, sat down, said something, and was kicked out. I mean, there was a lot going on that I was angry about that too. You know what I mean? Like, and being upset about teachers not handling things the way, because they're also angry and frustrated,
and they just waiting. Like, I ain't dealing with it
just
today.
wait and do one thing and you're out of here, or you know what I mean. So your child starts getting punished all over the place really quickly, and it's like a manipulation is taking place from adults to a child. That they're manipulating a situation. Some of it is abuse, like emotional abuse and stuff like that. So you're looking at all these things happening and just really wishing the child would just get it. Like, just go sit down, be still, be quiet. Don't say or do do your work like they told you.
Right.
You
But
know
then
what
your
I'm saying?
expectation for them is unrealistic.
Oh my
Because
gosh.
what child is going to sit quietly, don't do nothing, don't move, don't say nothing, don't talk to nobody? Like, that ain't even a realistic
It's
expectation.
not realistic, and it wasn't realistic for him, especially because he had ADHD.
Mhm.
So that's a whole nother, situation. But I'm thinking about when I finally, like God, you talk about family roles. So I have two sons who are close in age.
Mhm.
They're 18 months apart. So my other son, who is like the good son, straight A's and all that kind of thing. Well, he got some C's on his report card this time. He got 2 C's, child. But anyway,
Something wrong.
Child. I'm like, you need some help in these areas. What's going on with this? But anyway, so anyway, the Lord specifically said to me, don't ignore the other child. Because we're putting so much time and energy and attention
Mhm.
into the quote unquote trouble child.
Mhm.
Don't ignore this other child over here.
Mhm.
You know what I'm saying? Don't you letting a lot of time go by. You're not even asking him how's his day or how's he doing. Because as soon as they come in the door, you're asking that one, how was school today? What happened? What you do? Basically, and it seemed like there was always something, So it was like that other child almost like going unnoticed. So you have to make sure that there is balance there. And I also decided, because I don't like being angry anyway, I'm like, I'm not being angry about this stuff no more. That's Whatever happens, happens. Like there's nothing I can do. I'm praying. You know what I'm saying? He's being disciplined. A lot of times he was losing his game. I mean, no TV, no game, no. I mean, it was a lot of disciplining. You know what I mean? If I look back, I probably would have did a lot less of the discipline part the way that we did it.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because it really changed absolutely nothing. He didn't have no TV. He didn't have no game. He didn't have no cell phone. He still wasn't doing what he was supposed to do.
Right.
None of that was working. Because what needed to happen is we needed to have a better relationship with him.
Right. So that's what kids would do, because sometimes we want kids to say, hey, mommy, I miss you. When are we going to spend time together? Right. And they often don't do that. But when their behavior is not right, mommy focused on them. So sometimes the behavior is a cry for help. And sometimes the behavior, we talked about this with communication. Communication is not just verbal, it's nonverbal.
Right.
But we're not thinking about that. We're just trying to tame the behavior issue, not dealing with the root of it.
Right.
Which is what families sometimes don't do. We don't deal with the real issue. We go around it. And so that's why we're hurting. And it's so funny because families are hurting. And I think in this time of quarantine, we had to sit down and be with each other and talk to each other. But I think we need to deal with some stuff. Like, we need to be honest with people. We need to talk about the things that really bother us, because we don't.
And another thing too, when you are a parent and you have a troubled child, it definitely takes two to make a bad relationship.
Right.
And so even though I might be thinking I'm doing the best that I know how or the best that I can, in order to restore that relationship, because I hear you when you say, once you recognize like, oh, the child needs attention or whatever, they probably don't want to be around you. For real, for real. They want the love, but they don't want to be around you. You've been hateful. You've been mean. Every day you're disciplining them about the smallest of. It's like every time they do something, you jumping down their throat. They don't even like you.
Right. They walk in the door and the door slam. Even though, like, that's just able, because you know your door slams on its own.
Right.
Why are you slamming the door?
Right. And it's like
I can do nothing right. I'm always the problem.
Exactly. And even there were times when my son was doing something right and we found a problem with that. So what needs to happen, because there may be somebody out there listening and you think it's all the problem child's fault. It's really not. A lot of it is your fault. And not to just be like, oh, it's your fault. You know what I'm saying? But if you're going to restore the relationship, number one, you need to recognize that you've been abusive. If you're angry every day,
screaming.
If you're angry every day, you don't even have to yell. You don't have to scream. If you're angry with them, you are abusing them every day. It's emotional abuse that you're doing to them, because you don't have to be angry to discipline your child.
No.
You can say to the child, okay, if you don't do your homework, then this is the consequences for that. you don't have to get angry about that. Just give out the consequence. Mm-hmm. You get what I'm saying?
And then still love them. Because some people don't know how to do that.
Still love them. And some spouses will be upset. Like, for instance, that was when I finally came to myself and God is like showing me how to love my children, especially that child. You know, my husband had a problem with me continuing to love regardless of what was going on. He's like, you're being too nice. I'm not being mean.
What does that even mean?
I'm like, he's like, you're being too soft on him.
Right. So I'm supposed to ignore him, not talk to him.
Yeah. I'm like, I'm not going to reject him because he did XYZ. We already took the TV. That's the discipline. So what else is there to do? I'm going to hug him. I'm going to love him. I'm going to talk to him. And I'm not being mean. And I'm not snapping on him on every, you know what I'm saying?
Because
but a lot of times we grow up with that.
Right.
And so because we grew up with that, your parent yelling at you or whoop you and then be like, get out of my face. They don't even want to see you no more. Mm-hmm. So not only are you being disciplined, you're now being rejected as well.
Right. And so to withdraw love is abusive because we can't withdraw love from people because they don't do what we want them to do.
Slow down. Say that again.
We cannot withdraw love from people because they don't do what we want them to do.
That is right. Especially correct when you're dealing with a spouse, when you're dealing with a child, people in your house. You could be taking care of a parent. You are not supposed to withdraw love because they didn't put their pamper on.
Or they wet the floor.
Or they whatever it is that they did. They could have dropped their plate of food on the floor and you like at your wit's end. But regardless, you're not supposed to withdraw love. Love is always supposed to be continual because that is the way that God loves us.
Right, because love is not supposed to be conditional.
Right.
And I withdraw love when my love for you is conditional and based on what you do. That's why it's easy to do.
Yes.
Because it's not unconditional. And love is always unconditional. There shouldn't be no conditional love. Love is always and forever will be unconditional.
Yes.
It's a choice that you make regardless if you know. It's a choice that God made knowing that we was going to hurt him all the times we do.
Absolutely.
Right? So if I'm saying I love you as my friend, that means you're going to get on my nerves. You're going to hurt me. I'm going to be upset. But do I stop loving you because of it?
Right.
Because if I do, it's not love.
Right.
At least in my opinion. I don't know.
Well, so what I'm saying is if you want to restore the relationship, the first thing you're going to have to do is admit your abusive ways.
Apologize.
And apologize. I am so sorry for the way that I've treated you. Now, sometimes you have to have a talk. So, and this is what I had to do. I had to acknowledge that we were abusive to my son. I said to him, we've been abusing you and I'm really sorry about that. Mm-hmm. I prayed for myself that I would no longer be abusive. Mm-hmm. So I had to own up. Then after that, I said to him, this is what we're going to do. From now on, I'm not going to be using anger as a form of discipline. What I am going to, these are the things I'm going to use. If I get a phone call from the school and your teacher says that you did XYZ, mm-hmm. This is the discipline that is going to happen after that. Mm-hmm. And then also, if I get a call 2 days in a row, then we're just going to add on. You know what I'm saying? Mm-hmm. So we had to I made an agreement with him that this is going to take place if this happens. And so that's what I started doing.
Yeah. But another good thing is sit down and talk to your child. Like, what's up? What's the problem? What's causing you misbehave? Why are you the class clown? Why are you this or whatever like that? Because sometimes there's things going on at school, right? So maybe if the child, let's just use bullying. If they're being bullied and they realize, hey, when I make jokes, I don't get bullied. Do you think they care about the TV being taken away at home? No. When my life every day, I spend more time at school than I do at home with you. And I don't want to get beat up and humiliated and all that other stuff. So we don't even ask what's going on. We just say stop the behavior when we have no idea what's fueling the behavior.
Well, my son's issue was rejection. Now, he couldn't verbally say that, like, oh,
you're rejecting me.
You're rejecting me, or dad's rejecting me, or, you know, whatever. He gave some specific examples. I'm like, oh, that's rejection. So I'm like, oh, okay, well, I'm going to make sure I'm not rejecting. And that built our relationship. Like, we're on good terms now.
Right, but you had a conversation with him. So a lot of times,
and you have to own up as a parent.
You do.
You cannot be like, I'm sorry, but you.
Mhm.
Because now you're making him the scapegoat all over again. I'm sorry, but you keep acting up in school. Like,
Right.
you're not sorry.
Right. Because you're justifying your anger.
You're justifying your behavior.
And if we just, really, we wouldn't need a scapegoat if we take responsibility.
For our own actions.
Right. And your role in everything that happens. Because you play a part. So, I don't know. It's just interesting. I just see the families hurting. The children are hurting. Relationships are hurting because it happens. And what they also said in the book, too, they was like, you know, you deal with two people who are maybe unhappy. And what happened, the courting and the dating and the engagement, all of that is happy stuff. But you were two hurt people from your childhood.
Mm-hmm.
And then what happens is, as you start getting married and having kids, you become what you were dealing with in your childhood.
A lot of times.
Because we don't resolve it. We don't deal with the issues. It's like, oh, that's just how mommy was. That's why I don't like when we take on things that are abusive as normal. Like, oh, mommy always screams, so that's what we do. Like, no, that's not what we do. Like, and you know, we normalize abuse a lot.
Yes,
we normalize, you know, hurting people. We normalize making somebody the scapegoat. We normalize yelling. We normalize everything that's shouldn't be normal.
Right.
And I have an issue with that because when something's normal, we okay with it.
And it takes time. And another thing too, I think there's a lazy component to it. Well, I think there's a slavery component. Okay, as far as like the beatings and stuff like that. We learn that here in the U.S. You know, you don't do what I say, you get whipped. You know what I'm saying? So I think there's a component there. But I also think that there's a component of laziness because you have to take the time to communicate and you have to be a good communicator.
Which most people are not.
Which most people are not because we're lazy when it comes to communication. Some things you might have to look up, like, how do I talk to my teenager?
That takes time and you're always busy, so you don't have the time. I'm just saying.
You got to make time when it comes to your loved ones because you don't want to keep a vicious cycle going. And then another thing too we do is we think we're better than our parents were. Mm-hmm. So, well, I wasn't as abusive.
Right, so it's okay. It's better.
It's not better.
Right.
You're still being abusive. It's the same spirit.
Yeah, a little abuse is still abuse. It doesn't change. It doesn't change.
And it's still going to be harmful to the child like it was harmful to you.
Yeah.
And then a lot of times we realize, too, that we married, you may realize you married your mother or your father, whoever was the worst to you. A lot of times people are like, I married my parent. You know what I mean?
Right.
And so once you realize that as well, and you might find yourself acting out like as if you were a child.
Right. Right. And so that's what happened because the lady's mother was very abusive to her, like verbally. So what happened is she is the little child and her daughter is the mother.
Right.
And so now she's fighting back as if she was fighting back when her mother was abusive. So you see how the family roles are just reversed now, right? So the daughter's the mother and saying everything, and she's like, I would have never dreamed about talking to my mother that way, right? And so the little girl just became the mother, and she's still the child.
Wow.
I was like, dang, this is deep. This is
good. Deep. So let me ask you this. Did they say like the end result?
No, I'm still reading. I haven't. I'm on like chapter 11, 12. I haven't finished it.
I'm like, what is the end result to that?
Well,
like,
it seemed like it's getting a little better. And so what happened was in the therapy when after the mother hit her, they had the session. The therapist brought up that none of the other kids came, and so then the mother started feeling bad, and she apologized to the daughter because the daughter is always the one. Yeah. And so they did like an apology to each other. But the daughter was trying to leave because the mother was like, you're going to respect me and you're going to get out. So she was getting ready to walk up out the session. But the therapist unconsciously, you know how when you lock the door and you turn it, it locks automatically when you close? And so it had a door that when you close it, if that lock is turned on with the key, you can't get out. So she's mad. I want to get out of here. I want to get out of here. And then the mother, and he said, the therapist was like, because there's two therapists. They was like, they wanted to rescue her, but it wasn't their job. Their parents needed to tell her, hey, let's work through this. Because the therapist can't come and be and substitute for with the parents because then they're going to have this great relationship with the therapist, but they got to go home with the family. Right. So after like a little while, the mother was like, no, come on, sit down. Let's work through this. And then she went and sat down.
Yeah, so I remember being in counseling, marriage counseling. This was many years ago. And I remember the counselor was like, asked me a question. I can't remember what we were talking about, but I got choked up, like I started to cry or whatever as I was answering the question. And so I finished answering the question. And then she turned to my husband and said, how are you going to respond to what you just saw? What is it that you think you should be doing at this moment? Mm-hmm. And so he was like, well, I feel like I should probably hug her or something like that. And the lady was like, yeah, you know what I mean? And he's like, but he's thinking in his mind, we're in a counseling session. So I think a lot of times we just don't know how to respond to different things, but we need to be able to receive correction and respond correctly. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? So he did, like, he came and gave me a hug or whatever, and my head just like fell into his
you just
neck.
Needed it, yeah.
And she was like, see, like you see how easy that is? Yeah. Like somebody, even though they might be talking about you, right? You might have a child. They're discussing you, but they're discussing you in anger and hurt. And you know what I mean? They might be crying, whatever. They still just need you to let them know that you still love them.
Right. Because if they wasn't, they wouldn't be there talking about it if they didn't care and want to be there.
Exactly.
We have to think, we're like, oh, they're mad, whatever. She still show up. And that's what they said. The therapist was like, yo, I wanted to hug her. Right. And they didn't say, hey, you cursing your mother out was okay. Like, the mother needed to stand firm and take position. But she didn't have to, like, smack her. And she didn't have to take the brunt of all of what everybody was doing. Mm-hmm. Because they asked about the husband, well, what about him? She was like, oh, he never helps. Like, he would never stoop that low. Right? But this is all about how they feel that they don't talk about.
Yeah.
And he's at work a lot, so he don't deal with the kids. He comes home to it, then he want to go upstairs to his room and do some more because work is his scapegoat.
Right.
So we all have them.
Wow. That's deep. Question. What is your scapegoat? Are you scapegoating anything? Is it somebody else's fault or is it your fault? Whose fault is it?
Get rid of the scapegoat.
Yeah. You got to recognize that you have one, first of all.
Right. First step is admitting to the problem. Hey, I don't take ownership for this. I rely on this. I go to this. I use this. And so we use it not to deal with the bigger issue because there's a lot of fear around dealing with the bigger issue.
Right.
Like being vulnerable with somebody. What if I'm rejected? All of that things come into people's mind. That's why the defense mechanisms are so easy to go to because it helps me. It protects me from being hurt by dealing with the situation, even though the situation is hurting me.
And recognize too that, you can unveil your scapegoat because Jesus is your scapegoat. So you literally can be like, okay, I hear what they're saying. I realize something. I probably have a scapegoat here or there. And so I need to release my scapegoat and allow Jesus to be my scapegoat,
And not the other person. Right.
Yeah, because that's why he went to the cross for us.
Right.
Because he is the scapegoat. So he has to be the scapegoat every single time. You have to go to him. You know what I'm saying? And if you go to him, he's going to reveal to you that, you have some stake in this game here.
He's waiting to reveal. He wants people to be better. He wants relationships
better.
He wants us to be loving. Yes, because we were made for love, to be loved.
Let us love one another.
Yes.
What does he say? Love God with all your heart, mind, body, soul, spirit. It's three of them. I always be adding one.
All your heart, all your mind, all your soul.
Okay, heart, mind, and soul. And love your neighbor as yourself.
Yeah, but you have to have love for yourself first.
You do.
So,
but it's all about love. Like he said, that was the first commandment.
And the greatest.
The greatest commandment, not the first, the greatest. So the greatest commandment is to love. We have to love people on purpose. And so I think that it's okay to go to God and say, God, fill my heart with love. Because we be having a whole bunch of mess in here. I'm first to say it. Like, there's been mess inside this heart. But I'm asking God to make sure that this heart is full of love, because I want to look more like him, and I want to be more like him.
Right.
And there were situations that would reveal that there's other things in that heart that's not just all love.
Yeah. And you think that you love him, but you're not. Not to the capacity we really
Not
can.
to the capacity that you can.
Yeah.
And we have to start loving better, and we have to start loving more, especially with everything that's going on in the world that's hurtful.
Yeah, and the thing about it is, you would think we would love the people that we're closer to more, and we don't. We treat people better outside.
Oh, yeah.
Like Bishop Jake talked about that one time, like, yo, you are mad, nasty, yelling at the person in the house, and you get to the store, good morning, how was your day? How can I help you? Like, who is this person? But the people who are closest to us, that do stuff for us, that's in it with us every day, we are the meanest to. And then the people outside that we don't even know.
Because we put undue expectations on people.
And we take people for granted.
Absolutely.
We get comfortable with people, and comfortable means you're not important, not really valid. You know what I'm saying? We get comfortable with you as you're not important, you're not special, you don't, you know what I'm saying? All the things that we do in relationships when we first meet people. And then once we get cool with them, it's like, oh, okay, whatever.
Right. All right, well, we don't have a black, what are we doing?
We're doing Black History Facts.
We're doing Black History Facts. That's what we're doing. So, we chose to look up who created
the first sewing.
The weave, right? The first sewing. And hopefully I can find her now, because I
looked up some other stuff.
Is that it?
No.
All right. Christina Jenkins. There she is.
All right.
Okay. Christina Jenkins is, she's the one who invented the weave. Now, she originally invented, so she worked at a shop, a wig shop.
Yep.
And she decided that she wanted to make it where it looked like your hair.
Yeah, it looks more natural.
More natural. Because when people put wigs on, you can tell that they have a wig. Okay, so let's see. It's no overstatement to say Christina Jenkins changed women's lives forever when she invented the hair weave, also known as the sew-in, in a huge advancement in hairstyling. Born Christina Mae Thomas in Louisiana on the 25th of December, 1920, the details of Jenkins' early life are a bit sketchy. So they don't really have info about how she grew up and stuff like that. But she graduated with a science degree in 1943 in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And in the same year, she married a jazz pianist named Herman Duke Jenkins. That's how she got the name Jenkins. She pops up in 1949 in Chicago, where she's working for a wig manufacturer. So it's here that she began developing a technique to make the company's wigs sit more securely on the head. So that's how it started. She was making it where the wigs looked a little better, and then she graduated into examining different methods of how to sewing stitches and different type of stitching and stuff like that. Then she started working with natural hair, like real hair. So fake hair and real hair, because all the wigs were fake at first.
Yeah, synthetic hair.
Yeah, synthetic. Okay. So then she started with a process involving 3 cords. So it was two types of, I forget what the one is, but it's like real hair, fake hair, and then some other cord, some type of weaving cord or whatever for the hair. So anyway, she was a trailblazer. Okay. She filed her patent number for the permanently attaching commercial hair to live hair technique, she called it, according to the registration documents, the hair weave, on May 4th, 1951. Wow. So although she created that in the 1940s, towards the end of the 1940s, but she got her patent in 1951. So praise the Lord, because everybody wears weaves. Not even just black people, but white people wear all races wear weaves.
I never had a sew-in, but I got braids, so that's considered weave.
I had a sew-in one time. No, I had a sew-in twice. I really liked the sew-in when I had it because at the time it lasted so long.
Oh.
So I was like, yes to the sew-in. I remember I had like curly hair. Then I got another sew-in for like my girlfriend's wedding or whatever. And it wasn't a good sew-in. It wasn't done well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I've never had
anyway.
one. I don't desire one now.
Yeah, no, not now. But I do like to crochet.
I do like crochets. I like, obviously, box braid. These are feed-in, so I definitely like these.
I wonder who created the crochet.
Right. Well, just the crochet in the hair, right?
Yeah, who created crochet braids? Oh. Crochet braids also known as latch hook braids are techniques for braiding hair that involve crocheting synthetic hair. It doesn't say. The Himba people of Africa. The origin of braids can be traced back 5,000 years in African culture to 3,500 BC. They were very popular among women. Braids are not just a style. This craft is a form of art. Braiding started in Africa with the Himba people of Namibia. Wow.
I can see that.
I can see that too.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, but you look at so if you go Google some of the pictures of, like, old pictures of people in Africa.
And they had long, pretty hair.
Wait, they had braiding styles that we can't even do still today. You're like, how did they get that looking like that? How did they do that?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a whole...
They invented braiding tight.
Yeah, it's a whole...
But they had long, very long, pretty hair,
They
too.
did.
And so people are getting different
probably the way
recipes.
They
ate and then using like aloe vera and all those natural things like that to put in your hair. Makes it grow.
Yep. But anyway, that's our Black History moment for February. Right. Maybe we'll continue.
We're going to continue this for the rest of the year.
Yeah, doing that.
We'll do the Black businesses with the Black History facts. I know next month is Women's History Month, so we can just do Black women. Like, you know, we can just do good facts so we can learn our history. I think it's our job to teach our kids our history. I do that in my class. And when I taught them about Fred Hampton, they was like, who?
Right. People don't even know who, like, it's really sad that we learn our history through movies and stuff.
I know, I'm like,
guys, now there's a whole movie.
Right. I'm like, there's a movie's coming out about him, go see him. But I'm like, yo, do you know that we started the, in school lunch or before the breakfast program or the breakfast program? It wasn't, they didn't know about this.
It was not the government.
Right. It was a Black Panther Party. And it's so funny because when they talk about the Black Panther Party, they only talk about the negative of the Black Panther Party.
Right.
And nobody talks about the KKK. Right. But anyway, I'm going to move on. Right. But anyway, we started the free lunch and feeding our kids. And then they distorted it. And then the government took it on like it was something they created.
What was so awesome about him was that he brought all groups together, including the KKK.
Yep. Because Caucasians would come to his meetings. That's why he was a threat to them. He was
like, look, the government is against y'all too.
Right.
Like, we need to come together and feed these people. We need to come together and do, blah, blah, blah.
He was for the people.
He was for
everybody.
The people,
period.
Yeah. And
so that was an issue. When you're uniting all races together, when we've been thriving on division,
you're dangerous.
And died at 21 and all that he did.
And the government murdered him.
Oh, yeah, I know. Yeah.
I'm just saying.
And then he knew law. Like,
yeah. He was young too.
He died at 21.
Right, but in the movie, so the guy who plays him, I did.
Did he do a good job? Because
he did a great job.
Okay, so I'm gonna go see it.
He doesn't look that young. So I didn't know that he was only he started when he was a teenager.
Because I taught them about him. I knew he died at 21.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I had to tell one of my students because he was like, yo, I got time. He's talking about Martin Luther King stuff when Martin Luther King was like 26 when he was doing stuff too. But I was like, yo, this dude was 21 years old. You were never too young.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like, what is that?
Powerful.
And knew law and was using the law and gaining his degree to kind of combat the government.
At that young age.
Yeah.
Like, you're like, wow. Like, that's what I was like, wow. Because I didn't know. Yeah. But anyway. All right. Bless the Lord. Well, what's the name of the movie?
Judas and the Black Messiah.
Yeah. So, I'm going to be honest. I was a little traumatized when the movie was over. So, I have
seeing the way they killed him?
Yes.
Yeah.
Not the way they killed him, but the way they were just killing everybody.
Oh, okay.
The whole government situation. I'm not gonna lie, I was a bit traumatized afterwards, and I was just like, it took me a couple days to like get it together. But anyway, it's a really good movie. We should learn about our history.
Right, but it's also our job to teach our kids our history. We can't expect
it is,
anybody
but we
else
gotta know it though. And I think
everybody get a book.
We don't know it.
Get a book.
We don't know our history, and I think that's why we need to be really pushing that they do history correctly in school, because we learn nothing about ourselves. We don't know how powerful we are. And we develop like a community low self-esteem.
And shoot, Ava DeGruy says it's a vacant esteem.
There you go. No esteem at all. So, but anyway, we need to stop this video.
See you guys later. Like, share, subscribe.
Yes. Thank you so much. Please comment. See you next time.